Okay, good afternoon. Today I will be talking about how to do a proper thesis statement for your DBQ. Now, obviously, you would do the thesis statement after you've looked at the documents so you see what you got to work with. But today we're gonna look at prompts that we've already seen, and we're gonna try to come up with a thesis for that, and we already know what the documents look like. So I'm not going to analyze any documents today. We're just going to focus on thesis statement. So the format that I use to formulate a thesis statement is the although and then a counter argument, because, evidence, and evidence, therefore your argument. Okay, so let's look at one that we already knew and that we've already done before. Evaluate the extent to which Christian missionary efforts motivated European imperial expansion in 19th century Africa. So we already know this one. We did the DBQ before. A lot of the theses that I got from this, because I didn't really teach you how to write a thesis statement, that's my bad. But a lot of these statements that I got from this, some of them were like Christian missionary efforts influenced European imperial expansion in 19th century Africa. Okay, so if you notice, this is not a thesis statement because it is just repeating the prompt. So what you want is not a good thesis statement. So this is not what we want to do. So no. A better thesis statement would be something like this. So although, and then we're going to come up with a counter argument. So let's see. Although imperialist countries generally took control of a territory by force, okay, Christian missionary efforts were usually not forceful. They usually got like a pastor or preacher. They went to the head of a tribe in Africa or the head of a little African state, and they're like, hey, can I set up a missionary effort here? And then the head of state would say, a lot of times they would say, sure, you can set up your little church there, convert my people. And then they would just set up their little church there and start converting people. It was usually not forceful. So that would be a good counter argument. So although imperialist countries generally took control of territory by force, all right, so that's my counter argument. Then we have the because. And for this, because we're going to use evidence that we found in the documents. So we found a lot of documents that said how the Christian missionaries would come to ask the chief to set up a church there, and then they would just set it up. So before Europeans actually came in and divided Africa amongst themselves, they actually still had they already had like little missions already established. So that could be one evidence that is shown in the documents. Because Christian missions were already established on some lands. And, okay, so our next piece of evidence is we saw a lot of documents about how the Africans' lives had improved so much because they converted to Christianity. So we could put, and that's why we should convert them and conquer them, because we're going to make their lives better. That was a form of social Darwinism. So because Christian missions were already established on some lands, and the influence of religion was used to justify imperialist ambitions, and then we're going to have the therefore. So therefore our argument. We usually don't write therefore because in this part it doesn't. I guess we could write therefore. Therefore, Christian missionary efforts played a significant role in motivating European imperial expansion in 19th century Africa. Okay, so this is a good thesis. Yes, let's do it. Put in bold so you don't forget. Okay, let's look at another prompt. Oh, this one looks familiar. Okay, so evaluate the extent to which nations or groups used the memory of the First World War to advance their political objectives in the period 1918 to 1939. Okay, so some of you might use this and be like, my thesis statement is going to be nations and groups used the First World War to advance their political objectives in the period 1918 to 1939. All right, what do we say to that? No, because it just repeats the prompt without actually adding anything to it. So let's try to think of a better one. So let's think of we're using our format again, the although counter argument, because evidence and evidence, therefore argument. So although World War I caused havoc and left us devastating, using my adjectives, scar on the world, because and then I'm going to refer to the documents. Two of them were about some leaders of countries advocating for the expulsion of certain peoples from their countries. And I'm talking about the Hitler one and the Gandhi one. Because nationalist leaders used it to unite against a common enemy, and then two other documents were about minority groups kind of using the First World War as a platform to expand their movement. So, and minority groups. Okay, and when we do nationalist leaders, I'm going to do such as Gandhi in India and Hitler in Germany. And when we talk about people, we're always going to refer to them by their last name. Okay, we don't call Hitler Adolf because we're not cool with him. We haven't had dinner with him. And we don't call Gandhi Mohandas because he's not our friend. We're going to call them Gandhi. So Although World War I caused havoc and left a devastating scar on the world because nationalist leaders such as Gandhi and Hitler used it to unite against a common enemy, and minority groups such as communists and women. I'm going to do feminists. Used it to further their movements. World War, I'm going to do the memory of World War I set the stage for many groups to advance their political agendas. All right, what do we say to this? We say yes, because it checks all the boxes. So it answers the prompt without just repeating it. And it establishes a line of reasoning. If you have a good thesis statement, this is going to kind of provide an outline of how you're going to write your essay. So I already know that my first paragraph is going to be about Gandhi and Hitler, documents 2 and 3. And my second paragraph is going to be about the communists and the feminists, documents 4 and 7. Okay, so hope this helps. Just very brief. When you write your thesis, make sure you write it after you've analyzed all the documents so that you know what you're going to write about. Because if you write a thesis statement before you analyze the documents and then you find out that the evidence you want is not in the documents, you're going to have to rewrite it. So first, we got to know what we are working with to actually write the thesis statement.